Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Johnny and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. In today's video, since the Lantern Rite is right around the corner, let's discuss about which Liyue character you should choose, because this is a pretty important topic when getting new characters or even constellation. New characters and constellations can have a very large impact on your team, so making the right decision is key. Before we do jump into it, guys, if you do like the video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. This will greatly help our channel to grow and help with the YouTube algorithm and recommend the video to other viewers. Now, without any further ado, let's jump right into it. First, I will try to prioritize characters that you don't already own, because it's unpredictable when that character might be featured on a banner, and even then, there's a chance that the banner might not interest you. Also, while limited time 5-star characters have a pity system and a guaranteed way of getting them, 4-star characters do not. Meaning, you can spend a bunch of Primo Gems to get a certain 4-star and might not even get the one you're chasing for, despite spending all your Primo Gems. Please don't do that. Therefore, try to prioritize a new character that you don't already own. In some way, they'll also help you pull extra times as well, because when you level up characters, you'll be able to earn 3 Acquaint Fates, depending on how far you ascend said character. Hey, Johnny, not to flex and all, but I already have every single 4-star character. Who should I get to better improve my team? Well, if you already have every single 4-star character or just want to spice up your team overall, then there are certain characters to help you do so. When it comes to top tier supports, you can't have a conversation without Xingqiu and Xiangling. These two are a must-have on any account and why they are on priority too. Xingqiu is the best character to applying Hydro because of his elemental skill and burst. His elemental skill allows the active character to apply Hydro at close range, while his burst applies Hydro at close or mid-range. Note that it's active character, which means Xingqiu can apply Hydro after being swapped out. This is why Xingqiu is regarded as one of the best supports, because he's able to do elemental reactions without much effort on the field. Hydro is a very strong element because it can do Vaporize, Freeze, and even Electrocharge. His ability not only applies Hydro with quick succession, but also does pretty good damage as well. He's also always included in top tier teams with Hu Tao, Ayaka, Raiden Shogun, characters that do massive amounts of damage and rely on reactions, and for obvious reasons. As an added bonus, one of his passive talents has a chance to refund character talent materials. This is huge because this will save resin in the long run and a passive that players will always be using. Definitely one of the better passive talents. His constellations are pretty busted as well and will make him increasingly more powerful. Whether it's more damage, longer burst duration, or even just the usual constellation 3 or 5 that increases talent levels, every constellation is a win-win situation and will not feel like it's wasted. Xiangling is another incredible character. Similar to Xingqiu, Xiangling can apply an element onto the enemy with her elemental skill and burst off field. That element being Pyro. There are a couple characters that could apply Pyro off field, but nobody like Xiangling. Xiangling's elemental skill summons Golba, who will continuously breathe Pyro. This ability is kind of inconsistent though, because Golba will act on its own. However, her burst does more than make up for it though, because she will spin her spear infused with Pyro and then surround the active character. There's that word again, active! This ability is great because it's more controllable. It also does a bunch of damage as well, especially if you do Melt or Vaporize. Xiangling is the definition of the best F2P character because, well, first of all, you get her for free once you beat Floor 3, Chamber 3 of the Spiral Abyss, which is doable for anyone. You also get her best in slot weapon, the Catch, for free as well, which boosts her elemental burst by a lot. Her constellations are pretty similar to Xingqiu in the sense that it works well with her kit. Every constellation is important to upgrade and a win. For these reasons, I strongly recommend and highly encourage players to build these two. I have both characters built with constellations on my F2P account, and it's gotten to the point where my F2P account even clears the Spiral Abyss easier than my main account. If you already own all characters or don't know who to pick for your free character, you can't go wrong with either of these two. For the next priority list, I recommend the newly released 4-star and talented opera singer, Yunjin. Most players will probably go for Yunjin as their free character, since most probably don't have her unless you pulled on the Shenhe banner. Now, if you disregard the fact that she's a new character, I strongly believe Yunjin is going to be a top tier support and will be future proof as well. Yunjin is a Geospear user who specializes in increasing normal attack damage. Now, what makes a great character is how well they accomplish their role. This is why there are tier lists to separate characters on how they perform. Though normal attack isn't currently prioritized since only a certain amount of characters rely on it, Yunjin should not be slept on because she doesn't just boost normal attacks, she boosts the crap out of normal attacks. The amount of increase you'll see from your normal attacks is insanity, and the best part is her elemental burst, which provides the normal attack buff, scales off of her defense, which means she's going to be very easy to build. Of course, she'll have a best in slot for artifacts with the Husk of Opulent Dreams, but even if you don't have the set, you can easily just put together a bunch of random artifacts with defense main stat and preferably energy recharge substat, and you'll have yourself a fully built Yunjin. Remember that Yunjin is a Geo character as well, so she can help with gaining Geo resonance. She'll also work with a team without any resonance because her passive talent breaking conventions will further boost normal attack by extra defense depending on how many different elements the team has. Her constellations are very good as well because it will further provide buffs or a cooldown reduction, making her a very solid character to build and upgrade. There's also no doubt in my mind that new characters in the future will heavily rely on normal attacks, and in which case, Yunjin will shine brightly. For priority 4, I'm going to recommend Ningwang, Beidou, and Chongyun. All three of these characters are pretty good and offer something different to the table, and here's why. Ningwang is a 4-star Geo Catalyst user. However, despite being a 4-star, her damage output is really high and one of the best 4-star DPS, on par with Razor. I actually think Razor might take us slightly because of Yunjin though. She just boosts damage so much. But in which case, Ningwang will get the job done. She's a good investment if you lack a Geo main DPS because of the crazy numbers she can deal. She's also a ranged character, and trust me, ranged characters have their perks over melee for sure, Riff Hounds. There's also a lot of Geo characters who can form a team around her, making her fit into a couple team comps while gaining Geo resonance. You can also form a mono Geo team as well, and she'll still shine. The awesome part about Ningwang though is that she works great even without constellations. Her C1 is really good though because her normal attacks will turn into AoE, which helps cover her weakness of being single target. The middle pack of her constellations are kinda meh though. They're good, don't get me wrong, but nothing too crazy I would chase for specifically compared to the other 3 characters we mentioned. Her C6 is good, so if you have Ningwang at C5, then you might consider getting her as the free character for C6 if she's one of your favorites. We're also getting a free outfit as well for Ningwang, and she just looks amazing. Who knows, she might even gain some popularity and be added onto more teams because of this outfit. Beidou is another character I think players should have their eyes on. She has a very unique elemental skill that serves as a block and parry. If timed correctly, it awards players by negating some damage and delivering increased damage. Beidou's power also comes from her burst though, which creates a shield around the active character and periodically shoot out a lightning strike when the active character normal attacks. Unfortunately, it is to a single target though, so if you want her burst to deal a bit of AoE damage, you'll need to get her C2, which jumps to 2 additional targets. Beidou is in that weird situation where her talent and constellations are pretty split between main DPS and support, which is why I think she's kind of in the middle. For example, her C4 awards her with increased normal attack damage by adding an instance of electro damage, and her passive talent increases her normal and charge attacks when she blocks with her elemental skill with correct timing. Both bonuses are for being on the field, but with Beidou, you don't really want her active on the field for too long unless you're using her as a main DPS. This is why characters like Xingqiu and Xiangling are considered S tier because their talents and constellations all feel rewarding, all while being off-field and improving the support capabilities. If Beidou had a bit more utility like extra energy recharge or increased damage while being off-field, then there's no doubt in my mind that she will be considered S tier because her burst can do some pretty good numbers. She also works great with some top tier characters like Raiden Shogun because Raiden Shogun mitigates her high energy cost while boosting her damage. So she can work in some top teams today as well, and why I think players should consider her. Especially if you're building a mono electro team. With Miko on the horizon, it might be something to consider. Chongyun is another unique character and one of a kind because his elemental skill will infuse sword, claymore, and polearm users with Cairo. Currently, there's no other character who has the ability to infuse the party with a specific element, excluding C6 Bennett, who will rely on Constellation. which you shouldn't do, by the way. With the exception of his C1, which only buffs him as he's normal attacking on field, his other constellations are pretty good, providing either buffs or extra utility. My personal favorite though is C2 because it offers cooldown reduction. Though it's only 15%, cooldown reduction is huge in Genshin because it can really change the pace of the battle and help with rotation. His passive talent, Steady Breathing, increases normal attack speed, which is my favorite stat in the game. It is only specific to certain weapon types though, so it can be limited, and why you won't really find him in a team comp consisting of Catalyst and Bow, but he offers cryo resistance down, which is huge around a cryo team. With the release of Shenhe though, Chongyun's priority did increase because he works so well with her. He can single-handedly turn Shenhe into a main DPS while infusing her with cryo and increasing her attack speed. And if you've seen our physical Shenhe video, her attack speed is no laughing matter. Overall, Ningwang is very good if you lack a main DPS, and Beidou and Chongyun are great if you're trying to build a specific team element. These characters are all good and aren't too heavily reliant on constellations, though it is always a plus. Now sadly, for priority 5, we're gonna be placing Yanfei and Xinyan, which really sucks. Yanfei is a 4-star Pyro Catalyst main DPS. Now, one would think that she should be very strong since she wields the Pyro element, especially if you pair her up with Xingqiu for a Vaporize and Bennett for buffs along with Pyro Resonance. And one would be right, but even then, Ningwang does around the same numbers. The biggest difference between the two lies with the element and the competition, because currently, there's a lot of Pyro main DPS characters who just offer more damage than Yanfei and works in a similar team comp. In some sense, Yanfei's issue is being Pyro because she is competing versus a lot of Pyro characters. Granted, she is a 4-star character, but chances are players will probably have a Pyro main DPS, and if you don't, then sometime in the future, you will most likely get Diluc, who is still viable and insane. Now, her damage is still pretty good. I guess I was just hoping Yanfei's damage would be a little bit higher than what I was expecting because Ningguang is comparable in terms of damage. With Ningguang though, you'll be investing for a long term because there aren't too many Geo main DPS. Actually, there's only one with the addition of Ito.
Nani?
Ningguang's best in slot for artifacts is also a mix and match between 2-piece Archaic Petra and 2-piece Gladiator or Shimenawa, so she's easier to build. Yanfei will rely more on 4 pieces for the set effect, either between Crimson Witch or Wanderers. You could mix and match those sets as well for 15% power damage and 80 EM, but the 4-piece set effect is just so good that you'll be cutting yourself a lot of extra damage. Because of the difference in competition though, I would prioritize Ningwang if you need a 4-star character for damage, just because she's also future-proof as well. Now lastly, Xinyan. Xinyan is a perfect example of a character who's in the middle between main DPS and kind of support. It's complicated. Her main role is physical DPS, but you don't generally see her in party comps leading the charge with charge attacks because other characters just fulfill their role with higher damage. As a physical damage dealer, Razor just does some crazy numbers, especially if you pair him up with Yunjin. Xinyan is more focused on charged attacks, so Yunjin doesn't really benefit her the same way. Now, Xinyan does have some support capabilities, such as providing a shield for the team. The multipliers aren't too impressive though, so if you do need a shielder, then I would recommend Noelle, who's easily accessible and a very good 4-star support character. Xinyan's constellation and passive talent also reduces physical resistance and increased physical damage, but is kind of focused around physical damage, which can be restricting for a generic party. Xinyan was meant to be a physical main DPS, but because her damage output isn't the highest, she's sometimes used and seen as a support when her kit wasn't really revolved around that. As a result, she's kind of stuck in the middle. Maybe if she has some sort of infusion like Chongyun that makes her stand out more, then I think she would have more priority. It's kind of funny because Xinyan was actually my first character to ever get C6 on. She just kind of popped up on every banner that I was pulling for. Now, each player has their own playstyle and preferences, so by no means is this a must-do priority list. Actually, I'm not even following my own priority list. For example, my Xingqiu is at Constellation 3, which is pretty good, and Xiangling is at C0, which is not good. But if you guys see my other videos, you'll know Razor is one of my favorite characters to play. The fast attack speed while just swinging around the Mighty Claymore is just really fun for me, which means Yunjin is a great character for my specific playstyle. My Yunjin is pretty good as well at C2, which was the main goal when I was pulling on Shenhe. But if you look at constellations, even C3, which increase our burst level, means more defense scaling for boosting normal attacks. C4 increased defense to further boost normal attacks, and then C6 to increase normal attack speed, which again is my favorite stat in the game, and there's no way to build up attack speed through artifacts. Because I want to further spice up my Yunjin in a team setting around normal attacks, I'm going to get Yunjin C3 and get closer to C6, despite not having a maxed out constellation Xingqiu or any constellations on Shangwei. Overall, if you have a specific playstyle or team you want to focus on, then pick the character that will best boost that team. This priority list was meant for players that might not have a specific team or just looking for characters to invest in the long term. Alrighty guys, I hope this video in some form or shape has helped you with the big decision of who to pick for Prosperous Partnerships. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to also turn that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new release videos. I've been Johnny D, and until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one.